actually being faced to go, shit, there's a serious situation that needs addressing.
I was just like, team members left, by the way. And he was like, what? And I was like, you know, the back controller's left, she leaves next Friday. And he went, you joking?
What's triggered this? What's happening? What can we control and what can we do?
A number of the recruitment agencies we reached out to in order to help us with this position were like, how do you normally get that many applicants?
Rather than growing a business to exit, why not grow a business that can be self-managing?
Have we been that stopping block of being that self-managing company? Emails coming in with mental health, and I just thought, it's an area that I'm not that great in, and I just thought I need to do something to help give me some understanding.
Hi there, and welcome to the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'm your host, Ian Morgan, and this is the Financial Performance Podcast for entrepreneurs looking to get a better understanding of their numbers, to plug the leaks in their business, and to move from surviving to thriving.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. Sam, thank you very much for joining me. Right, Sam, leak of the week. Now, we delved a little bit into this and give a little bit of an insight on last week's episode, but yeah, do you want to just talk us through, like, we joked about it actually, right? But it is reality, right? But we joked about the fact that actually we landed in Mallorca and I'd messed up the car booking. You weren't best pleased. Managed to figure out another one relatively quickly, considering it's not the easiest thing to necessarily sort out in an airport when most of the cars are hired because it's an island and they get booked up apparently. But then whilst I was collecting the other vehicle, yeah, you had a bit of a discovery.
Yeah. So, yeah, you mentioned there I wasn't best pleased, but actually we did have a laugh about it. It was just more the fact that you were insistent on me not booking the car because that's your job. And then you messed it up. So it was quite funny.
Not messed it up before.
It took 2 hours to get another car.
That's not bad. It's nearly going to cost us £1,200 for 4 days for I can't remember what it was, a Mustang or something.
Been quite nice. Yeah, so that was our sort of first thing. Then we'd had a phone call about our daughter, and there'd been an issue at school, hadn't there? Even though I'd explicitly spoken to the school and sent an email in to tell them not to contact me because I was in another country and here was their other contact, etc. But still got the phone call. And then our third one, and I'm a bit of a believer in once you've had 3, that's it, that's your lot. So our third one then, as Ewan was picking up the car, I decided to have a look at my emails, which is probably the biggest mistake ever to make when you're away. Yeah, well, I didn't think there was going to be anything bad in there. And we had VAT manager who's just over 2.5 months into their probation period with us, had handed her notice in with a week's notice. To say it was a shock is an understatement, because we've had regular reviews, everything was going well, she was really happy with everything, she'd managed to take everything on and gone through the training bits successfully, a hell of a lot quicker than what we were anticipating. Yeah, all positive signs all the way through, no negatives had come up other than like small tiny things of improvements that could be made, predominantly things that she'd brought to our attention rather than issues with her and things. So it was all running really smoothly. So Ian comes back from getting the car and he's like, right, we can get going then. And I was just like, team members left, by the way. And he was like, what? And I was like, you know, the back controller's left, she leaves next Friday. And he went, you joking? And I was like, no. And he looked at me and there was this moment where you could tell he was like, this is payback for the car. You're just telling me this. This is not true. This is not something I ever would have done, but it was clearly visible that Ian thought I was joking in that moment. So I showed him the resignation email, and Ian tends to be a little bit more of a panicker than I am for bits like that. So he was like, you know, without the swear words in it, what are we going to do now?
That's exactly how I said it.
Yeah. And I was like, we'll figure it out. It's fine. We will work it out. There's not much we can do about to change it. So we had some conversations.
I think the good thing here, right, is a blessing, is our hotel was actually about an hour's drive away. So what we had was an opportunity to go, well, we can't do anything apart from drive to the hotel. Let's have a conversation. Yeah, and work it out. So we set about a conversation to go, okay, what's triggered this? What's happening? what can we control and what can we do?
Yeah, and actually it was a good job that we were together, because you do tend to be a bit more, can't think of the right word, but you find situations like that frustrating, whereas I'm far more logical in my thought process of running through things. So it worked quite well that we were together, because I could stop you from stressing over it and going, look, we can figure this out. Let's take some logical steps. There must have been something gone wrong, because we know that she's been happy at every stage along the way. Therefore, this must be something that's come out the blue to her. So there's a possibility we could have a discussion around it, see whether there's, what's changed for her. Is there any chance of her not going through with this, because she has fitted in really well? If not, is there any way that we can have a bit longer before she leaves in order for us to get somebody else in, etc.?
I think also there's a good thing to point out here as well, that there was a secondary thought off the back of this, which was to go, we regularly leave a member of our leadership team in charge. She'd encourage us to go away on this occasion, because very rarely does anything actually happen or go wrong. And then it was, actually, she's in that email thread and that email chain. She's currently probably banging her head on the desk going, what on earth do I do? Is this one of those occasions where I do have to pick up the phone and disturb their break?
Yeah, and probably more stressed by it in the fact that she knew that I'd been having a particularly hard time on the run up to it and really just wanted some time to decompress and be away from things. So I think the fact that she'd really pushed and been like, go on, guys, have this time to yourself. Nothing will go wrong.
It's the speed of it as well. Yeah, like
Yeah.
7 days. I think if it had been a standard member of the staff and it was month, 2 months, 3 months notice, depending on obviously what role is and so on. If it had been one of those, I think it'd be, yeah, it's fine. They can just leave it. It's only 4 days, 5 days, whatever it was. Actually, with it being a week and going, by the time we get back, there's only a couple of days left. Yeah, it was an element to go, we also need to reach out to her.
Yeah, so I'd said to Ian almost straight away that I knew I needed to reach out to Georgia, which is our team member that was left in charge. I knew that she would be stressing if she'd read it by that point. But also at the same time, I needed a few minutes to gather exactly what was I going to ask her to do and what's the process from here, what was the best route forward. So we had a couple of minutes, went through a few bits, and then I got on the phone to her and I was like literally just staring at my screen going, what do I do? Do I disturb somebody in on holiday? We ran through some bits to see whether she could have a conversation with team member and just see, what's happened, what's gone wrong, is it anything to do with us, the processes, etc.? Is there anything we can do in order to change her mind, or at least have an extended period where it's not just 1 week before she goes, even if we can negotiate a part-time aspect to that so that we've got opportunity to get cover in. It was made very apparent that unfortunately something had happened within this person's family and she had to go and support them. And it was nothing to do with what's happened within our company. She was very happy with everything, liked her job, liked the people she's working with, but this extenuating circumstances had come all of a sudden, and this was a decision with her heart of where she needed to be in that moment. And unfortunately, there was no negotiation there. This is what she needed to do. And I think initially, we had a catch up with her obviously when we got back, and initially there probably was an element of a little bit of frustration of going, a week, etc. But then you hear the perspective from the other point of view. When I caught back up with Georgia and she let me know that the team member actually has got something going on in her family, we didn't know what it was, but something was going on that meant she just had to do this. This was her priority, and you understand as a person. And you go, okay, now we know there's no movement in that. So we know exactly what we're working with, where are the parameters. And that's really what we needed from that conversation, to go, where do we stand? Is there any movement in it? Is this firm? Now we can work out what we're going to do.
And I think realistically, just to get to that point that we go, okay, we've done everything we can, and now we've gained what control we can, and we know where we stand. Job's done. Yeah, to a degree. Right, obviously, then there was, actually, we need to get recruitment in place. Yeah, so how do we start our recruitment process off and make sure that that triggers while we're away? But other than that, we're now done. Yeah, we can relax in terms of our holiday. Now, I know we do go on, and I'll come on into it in the epic win of the week in the moment, right? And we go on and we build up something amazing off the back of that, in my view. But from a point of going, here's a leak, here's a problem, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you straight away, didn't I, that actually what we need to do from here, we don't normally use recruitment agencies, etc. We normally do the recruitment ourselves, and we have very good success off the amount of candidates we get, to the point that actually a number of the recruitment agencies we reached out to in order to help us with this position were like, how do you normally get that many applicants? So that was quite an interesting question to get back off them. But we decided on this occasion that because we were away and we didn't want it to impact on our time too much, because we knew we needed this time away and we needed some time to decompress, that actually we'd reach out to recruitment agencies. And we reached out to several different ones. Our team member that was looking after the company, Georgia, she was happy to speak to them and what we wanted out of the candidate and our culture, etc. And we got a load of CVs through, and then we've got interviews booked in, ready to take place off the back of that. So it's been a very quick process. It would only be that quick if we were then reviewing like skills tests and things like that off the people that were applying for a job through us. So on average, we probably get about 900 applicants, around there somewhere. We then send out for them to do a skills test off the back of that, but those skills tests need reviewing. So that was the element that we were trying to eradicate. So there's tests, etc. involved, but obviously the recruitment agencies are dealing with those bits, so it saved our time significantly, which meant we could carry on with our holiday and have the important discussions we needed to have.
Yeah, so the epic win off the back of that. Obviously, this fed in and went, right, we've got things under control, we've got a process in place. We can't do anything about the situation. Actually, it probably sounds like it's right for the individual, even though it might well be painful for us. And you do have to do what's right for you in life. So we got that under control.
Yeah, and it was painful for her as well. So she openly said to us that she felt incredibly guilty, and I almost did some reassuring, well, I did do some reassuring of her that actually as a person, she has, you know, if that's what she needs to do, then that's what she needs to do. And actually we did come up with a brilliant plan off the back of it that we wouldn't have necessarily come up with without having been put in this situation. So everything happens for a reason, as they say.
Well, then what's the plan? So
we're doing a restructure within the company, effectively. So the position that it was in currently, we run off pods, and we have 3 people within a pod. So we have an admin / bookkeeper, then we have a management accountant, and then we have a client manager. And that's how the pod structure works. And I think the way we've seen things going forward in the future was that then you would have an accountant within that pod, whereas currently we have an accountant that works across the pods. But for a period of time, I've felt that pod structure doesn't really work for employee growth and for growth of the company, because at any point you need to fill a whole pod again. So you need 3 whole jobs worth of work or part work before you can start a new pod. So you're either going to overwork people in a pod before you can take some clients out and start a new one, or people in a new pod are going to be underworked and not have enough work to do, because you can't just overnight magic a full pod of clients. And inevitably within a pod, that a management accountant might be extremely busy with all the things they need to do within their role, but you might have a client manager that doesn't have as much to do because of the type of clients that are in there, or vice versa. So it's actually quite hard to manage in terms of workloads, the back of it. So what we came up with off the restructure was actually the fact that we're going to go back to having the work within pools rather than having pods. So this will mean that anybody within their role can progress up. We can easily ascertain as business owners where we need more hours, whether we need another employee within the admin section or whether we need somebody else within the accountant section. It's much more easy to manage like that and ascertain the workload for each individual or across a department. The reason that this makes it so successful in this case is the person that's left was doing our VAT controller role, and they were a management accountant. We only have one other management accountant, and she wouldn't be able to do both pods by herself. It's not feasible. But putting everything together and having it in a pool where people select, she will pick out the more complex work within that field, and the admin bookkeepers can pick out the less complex ones from there, and they can meet in the middle, which is perfectly feasible for them to be able to do that within the structure that we've now created.
I think it's also key to note that we've got a particular member of our team who we hired with great aspects of future potential, but they need to get some experience and exposure, and this has created opportunity for them to be moving into different areas. And I think the other thing that this fixes is it gives we're creating a client relationship manager role, which is effectively the point of contact between the client and our team, that make it very aware that they're not going to do the work, but what they're going to do is, if the client doesn't know who to reach to, that's who to go to, and work things from there. And without going into mass loads of detail, that, yeah, it's just a new structure for a new era.
Yeah, I think effectively it's quite hard to explain without having sort of a diagram up to go, this is the different bits that we've moved around. But ultimately, overall, we know that this structure will be better for us as business owners, better for each team member and their progression and where they want to head, and better for the clients. Yeah, all round, there will be better. We're aware that there will be some challenges there, like anything within a new structure or whatever, there will be some challenges. But I think this definitely gives us the platform for that growth again to the next level. And I think that's something we've always been very sure that you have to reassess every now and then, because what got us here isn't necessarily what's going to get us to where we want to go.
Brilliant. And talking of where we want to go, the pick of the week, whilst we were away, I read a book by Dan Sullivan. Book, yeah, a small book, right? It's a very short, quick book called The Self-Managing Company. And basically it's seen as an alternative to retirement, yeah, or exit. Rather than growing a business to exit, why not grow a business that can be self-managing? Which is always something that appealed to us, because actually our goal was not to build a company to exit. It was build a company to change the lives of the people that we employ, and also for the clients that we work with. And I think actually what helped from my perspective anyway, certainly when we were talking about and shaping the new structure, was to go, this starts to create that self-managing company. As it stands at the moment, we don't have that self-managing company, and I'm not quite sure where it's coming from. Whereas this has led to having, yeah, the roles in the right places that lead us to that. And actually very quickly, as this launches, we're in a position where, I don't want to say we're still available like in the business. We are still available. We're not working in it. Yeah. But we're still within reach. But at the same point, the team now know not to be coming to us first. There's a hierarchy, I suppose, if you like, to bring your challenges or your difficulties through. You know, if you're like a non-manager, you know, you're bringing it to your manager, and then in turn they're bringing it to part of then that client relationship manager role, and then further up. Yeah, so there's an order to be going through, unless there's a particular reason to jump one of those gaps, which just gives an opportunity for review and so on from there.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about that is we had our leadership meeting on Friday. Actually, what came out the back of that is that actually our leadership team would like us to go away more often and have the opportunity to run the company and sort everything. Yeah, it's not the fact that they haven't felt they can do those bits before, it's that actually they don't get a huge amount of opportunity to do it, so they would like to have more of those bits to show that they can do those bits and progress towards that company, the self-managing. And that's come from them, that they believe we can get to that point as well. And actually, I suppose it made us think a little bit, have we been that stopping block of being that self-managing company? Because this hasn't pulled us back into technical roles. And actually the team were very happy, predominantly, we've had a few little bits of questions and stuff, but certainly the leadership team are very happy with the new structure and feel that that's definitely the route we should be going down in terms of us not being pulled back in to that type of work and being able to have more time out of the company and then being able to run it and make it self-managing. I mean, ultimately they know that that's where it works best for them as well, doesn't it? Because the more self-managed it can be, obviously the more incentives there are for them, the more sort of pay rises, bits like that, etc. Because the more they can do, the more they're worth, obviously. And
yeah, I think it was interesting to go, obviously that threw Georgia into a situation that she's not really had before. And we talked about what if this goes wrong and what if that goes wrong. That's all very well. That's in theory. Actually being faced to go, shit, there's a serious situation that needs addressing. I can't just go, I'll leave this. And actually that was a Friday when that incident happened, yeah? So with it being 7 days, if you leave it until the Monday, you've lost nearly half the time. Like it's eradicated really quick. And actually the whole consensus out of the back of that was, I need to be put in that situation more often.
Yeah, and the fact that we had a conversation, I asked her outright, didn't I, that if I hadn't have contacted her and for whatever reason I'd turned my phone off because I was going incognito sort of thing, you can't contact me, what would she have done in that situation? And actually she felt that she had the confidence that she would go ahead and do the steps that needed doing. She knew what needed doing in terms of an advert going out or contacting recruitment, etc. But certainly if she couldn't do recruitment elements because there was a question mark over whether she'd be allowed to, because it's not her company, could she sign anything off as such? But in terms of getting an advert out, redoing the job description to make sure it's really on point and accurate for exactly what we need, etc., she already had those on her list of stuff to sort out. So it showed to us she had the right steps in process. She just wanted that little bit of confirmation off us. So what we did during having the chat with her is we made it explicitly clear that we trust her and that go ahead and make those decisions. We're happy for you to do those. And I think she needed to hear that off us. And those conversations hadn't necessarily happened before because nothing like this has come up. So although we've gone, make the decisions while we're away, I think it's completely different when something actually comes up. And I think now it has done, she will feel more confident in making those decisions.
Yeah, I think in my experience, right, this journey towards a self-managing company or a company that's on a journey towards exit, which in reality, a company that you can exit needs to be self-managing. In that journey, on every step of the way that you go, or you're developing and changing, and like you said earlier, like what got us to here doesn't get us to that next level. So you need to be able to analyze and understand and move it on effectively, yeah, and go, what is the right setup that's going to get us?
And actually, sometimes you're not the best person necessarily to do that. Like the whole reason, the whole reason you have a leadership team and different bits like that is because you want some input off them and back and bits like that. And whilst we came up with the plan and we have the bits, it was very clear, which we'd already said anyway, that we didn't want to go into technical work and we didn't feel that was what was best placed for the company. And actually, that was one of the first things the leadership team asked when we were redoing the plan, because they like that strategic element that we bring instead. Okay, so moving on to the buzz of the week. So in general, we don't tend to watch the news, but something cropped up for me when I was sort of bored waiting in a waiting room. I was flicking through some bits on my phone and I saw a thing on there that was about charging stations for electric vehicles on the motorway. And actually somebody that owns a load of the motorway service stations are saying that there's long queues all the time for the electric chargers because there's so many cars that are electric now and they take a while to charge, that actually people are having to wait a long time. And apparently there's been some fights and stuff over electric chargers because of the times that people are waiting. And I think off the back of that, we've got electric vehicles, so it sort of sparked something with me. And I thought, we've never had the issue of, we don't do a huge amount of driving on motorways, but we never had an issue with getting a charger or charging the vehicle up. No, what's your experience? You do a bit more than me of motorway driving.
Yeah, I think we had that one motorway though, I think service station, we stopped at the once, but they actually had one charger or two charge points off the one charger. But we don't leave it until we're out. of charge. Yeah, you're not pulling into somewhere going, oh, I have 1% or whatever, because what's me, there's always that risk. I wouldn't do the same with fuel. No, I know. Yeah, you're like, yeah, the fuel go in the car, and I get in. I'm like,
so my electric car does get down to like 6. I would get 10% is where I go, okay, I need to charge it now. But yeah, if I'm heading home, I'd quite happily go to 2 or 3%, quite frankly.
Yeah, no, 30%. But so in my experience, though, now mine's a Tesla, obviously, and we've got dedicated chargers, and not many of the areas are opened up yet to other users. My experience is there's probably been more chargers free than there are in use in most of the occasions where we've stopped.
Incredibly quick as well. So on occasion where we've been in your car and we've sort of stopped on journey where actually the car probably hasn't really need charging, in my opinion, because we leave it quite a bit late. We've literally gone in and it's 15 minutes and you've got a message off the car to go, it's fully charged or nearly fully charged. It does that little bit beforehand, doesn't it? And actually you've only got like 5 minutes until you start getting, you have to go out and take it off because it'll be fully done, and then you start to get extra charges. So we've actually experienced quite the opposite. There's always ones available.
Yeah, it just doesn't ring true. Like, I know there's fake news, and I know you looked at it and went, it's come from a legit site, and you Googled it and you found that there are other places reporting on it. But I'm just like, where's this happening? Because my experience, mostly within the south of England and into Wales, is that that's not the case. In fact, even as far as the Midlands, yeah, it just doesn't appear to be the case. My experience is most of the time there's chargers available. And even when we went away to Wales and we went then, and we had to go to like non-service station charging points, yeah, just other branded ones that were around, there was never anybody else using them.
No, apart from the fact that we did have an issue with the Domino's people parking in there. So
yeah, yes, they use
they're
it
the
as
quick chargers and they just use them as extra parking spaces, which was a little frustrating. Ian's a little bit more arrogant than me, so he was quite happy to park like behind them and just block them in without charging, whereas I'd have been like, whose car's that? So
if they're in the way, they're not charging it. Why would you not just block them in? Don't park there. Anyway.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come off the back of this for me, though. One, if it is legit and these things really are happening, sort of thing, then we're only going to get more issues because electric cars are getting more and more popular for several reasons. One, because I think the government's pushing it. 2, because of the environment, people feel it's better for the environment. And 3, because there are advantages within a company to have an electric vehicle. If you're wanting to get a vehicle within a company, then electric is certainly a good option for that. But the other thing that comes off the back of it is actually, are some of these issues associated with the fact that some electric vehicles actually have a really poor amount of mileage? I was having my nails done a number of weeks back, and I can't remember the mileage that the lady that was next to me had said that her electric car does. But I would just remember sitting there thinking, wow, that's like next to nothing. And she was really shocked to find that mine will easily, I don't work very well in miles, by the way, so mine will easily drive for over 3 hours consistently before I'd even need to consider having a charge on my car. Hers definitely wouldn't, nowhere near. So is that part of the issue, that actually some of the cars going into production and being produced just don't have the mileage? So people are buying them because they're good for, either your bank balance or they're good for the environment, but actually they're not good enough in terms of what they can provide you with.
Potentially. I know, and I probably annoy you with this, but I did a fair bit of research before, obviously, we decided what cars we're going for and what makes sense. But most of my things were, how convenient is this? Yeah, you don't want to be the case that actually just on our normal trips to work and all that, we're trying to figure it out and go, oh, where do we charge? What do we do? And it's a pain, and doing the school run and things like that. What we worked out and decided was actually, even with 2 electric cars, we could probably cope with 1 charger. And here we are almost a year in, and we've only ever needed the 1 charger. Even for the fact as well that we've recently switched to an electricity rate that means that it's much cheaper and easier to charge the car overnight. There's been a little bit of getting used to it, but it's still mainly, it works.
Yeah, and we're out in the countryside. We're a good 20 minutes easily away from amenities. So it's not like you're going, oh, but everything's on your doorstep. That's not the case.
No, I think our nearest charging point is probably 15 miles away. Yeah, it's not a quick, oh, we'll pop down the road and charge it somewhere.
Yeah, the school run takes 45 minutes to start.
But I don't think there's a great deal to say on it. I fail to believe it's true. And I might be wrong. I know something like this happened during lockdown when they were saying, like, there were queues for hours for Teslas.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons we don't necessarily pay attention to the news, because I feel like it's always full of over the top information. The majority of it's probably not true or partially true.
That's always negative.
Yeah.
I just can't be doing that. I haven't got the energy. So in my view, I'm going to strike it off as not true. That might be just me being straight to the point. But yeah, it's not my experience.
Yeah.
And therefore I say struggle to see that's the reality. But I think you make a valid point to go, realistically, if you're going to take a car that is it's not going to last you a day in terms of you using whatever distance it can do off a full charge, it's probably not the right car for you. I think realistically, I can charge mine probably every 3 to 4 days, maybe even 5 days, and be fine. And yours is somewhat similar. So yeah, we're generally fine in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on some significant trips. I mean, we took the electric vehicle to the airport, didn't we? So it's about an hour and a half's drive from our house to get to the airport. It's been left there for 4 nights, 5 days, and then we've driven home with it. At no point has it needed charging during any of that. And I think if you're going to get an electric vehicle, you need to consider some of these aspects.
Sam, moving on, peek behind the curtains. You've been doing a few bits of training, I suppose is the best way to put it. Do you want to give a bit of a backstory into what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I think more and more now I see coming through bits of like our HR advice line, bits like that, emails coming in stuff to do with mental health. And I just thought it's an area that I'm not that great in, because I've just never really understood it. And I know that a lot of people suffer with it, but because I haven't done, I find it hard to understand. And I just thought I need to do something to help give me some understanding of this area. And I've done a few bits before, but actually I found a course that I could go on for this bit. And it was the other bits that I've looked at have very much been from the point of somebody that suffers with mental health. And I found it hard to relate to. So this was more for people to understand mental health instead, so not necessarily sufferers.
Which is very much, I always talk a lot about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of his things is to be understood, first you must seek to understand. And very much that, yeah? Like, we know a few people who have got mental health challenges, both in in the business environment, but also in our personal lives and things as well. And actually, like you say, if you can't understand them, they can't feel understood. So go and learn to understand, yeah? And
Yeah.
then they can be understood. And sure, most people with mental health want to be understood.
Yeah, and I feel like I've always tried my best to understand the bits, but fundamentally it is hard if you've not had those aspects yourself. But I feel like the course I've undertaken recently has given me a really good grounding for understanding it from a different perspective. I feel like it comes from a different angle to what maybe I've looked at previously, and it's definitely helped me to understand how to help somebody else that has mental health issues, concerns. I'm not quite sure what you'd want to call them, but one of the things I
struggles with their mental health,
yeah,
I think would be.
I think one of the things that I've learned from it is that actually anybody that struggles with mental health actually has a different way that they would like bits approached. So there's not a one rule fits all as such, which is possibly where I felt previously that I don't quite do my best as I could do in order to help those people. But actually there's lots of different things that I could be applying now. And it makes me feel happier, more comfortable that I've expanded my knowledge in order to do my best to help the people that I'm around that are suffering with their mental health. And I think makes me more aware of what to look out for, what to do and what to do and what not to do. I think I just felt before like I wasn't knowledgeable enough on the area to do my best. And if I can't do my best, then I'm letting people down. And I think when it comes to work related stuff, I do push myself out of my comfort zone. I do go and seek things work wise. But that has a bit of a mix on it because it's the unknown for me. And I think that's quite difficult of an environment for me to go into. But actually, I feel like it's definitely had a massive effect on both stuff within the company and stuff personally for what I need to be looking out for and how different situations affect different people. And actually, there's elements of it where I've felt that I haven't suffered with my mental health, but actually going through the elements, I kind of go, there are areas where I certainly have had some of those signs or symptoms. So I don't know, maybe I can help somebody else with bits that are going on in their life. And I think any small element you can do to help somebody has always got to be a positive, surely, even if you can't eradicate it for them, which I don't think is a case that you can eradicate stuff for somebody, but any small element you can do to help or give someone some positivity or a listening ear is always a good thing.
I think that's a key point though, isn't it? That actually, like you say, I don't think you can fix it, but actually most people that are suffering or struggling at any period of time, what they'd like most is to be able to talk to somebody. But actually the very element you were saying about it is that you feel like you don't understand and therefore you can't help. So therefore you don't want to talk to them because you don't know if you're going to make it better or worse. So actually having that extra level of understanding opens up channels for you and for them that they're free to have a conversation. And in my view, that's probably the best way. People don't talk enough. It goes back to, oh, this is showing my age. Where should I go here? BT. Yeah, it's good to talk.
That is old. Wow.
Maybe I should just shut up. At that point, we should move on. Sam, what's the power move of the week in your view? I've got a view. The leak of the week, yeah, the VAT manager resigning is the power move. Not in itself, but in the conversations and the context and everything that happened off the back of it. The fact that actually it gave our leadership team a chance to step up and lead in our absence. The fact that it made we were able to really see the power of having time away from the business and how freedom of being able to think strategically. The fact of then we could reorganize and restructure the business off the back of that. The fact then the conversations we were able to have with our leadership team about how they could feel more free to lead, and in particular, Georgia feel free to lead. So I think the back of that leak itself isn't the power move, but the consequences and everything that happened off the back of it is, in my view.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. The only thing that stopped me from saying that is because I felt like that's what it was for me last week in terms of having the time away. When we discussed it on the podcast, having the few days away gave me opportunity to have clarity, etc. And I feel like that kind of comes under the same umbrella as the restructure for me because it was all tied in. So I think if I was going to go pick something else because of the fact that I feel like those are all tied in together, oh, wow, rain's quite bad, then I would probably go for the mental health element because I feel like it's such a big area that can affect both personal, business, family. It can affect across the board. And I think you're quite right. I've probably shied away from those conversations previously because I don't know whether what I'm saying is the best thing or not. And that's easier to do when it's somebody you know really well. But actually, if somebody within our company had struggles or another connection that you're maybe not quite as close to, I would shy away from those conversations because I don't know that person as well to know whether what I'm going to say, how that's going to be received by them. So I feel like actually branching out and having a look at that mental health side of things, and there's a few other courses I'd like to do off the back, looking at the HR elements and things as well, that I think really expand my knowledge and help me get an understanding from other people's perspective.
Sam, it's been fantastic yet again, going through things. Bit of a longer episode this time, but I think it is important to give the audience an understanding of major challenges that can be thrown in your business, even when you think your business is being self-managing and is running in the right direction. The problems still crop up and they can still then throw you off course, and how you react to them. And I think it's been a very learning week for both of us in that respect. But I think we're here with a company that's stronger to go into the future. And based off your elements as well, and the learnings that you're doing, you're a stronger person that's able to lead us into the future even better.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'd love it if you could help spread the message by clicking subscribe and leaving a review. Also, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can also find more info and links in the show notes below. See you next time.